Welcome to our Grand Strand Weekly Web Chat. It's our third episode of the year as we approach week 2 now of the high school football season. It's this Friday, August 31st. It's an interesting first couple of weeks with weather playing a factor. Moving games on the Grand Strand from Friday to Saturday made for an interesting weekend, that's for sure. And let's just hope Mother Nature doesn't play with our emotions once again. Ian Guerin of the Sun News, as well as Matt Parris of ESPN Radio. When will this rain go away? Go.
Friday.
Friday.
Yeah, let's shoot for Friday.
Let's shoot for Friday.
Let's shoot for that.
This past week we had a lot of games that played on Saturday, which kind of threw a wrench in a lot of our schedules. I had to work on a Saturday. That wasn't a college football. I don't usually like doing that, but for this week to watch Conway Northwestern and Myrtle Beach Irmo, that was definitely a treat. Let's go ahead and take a look at week 1 results if we can. Michael Turner's pressing the buttons in the back. Thanks so much for him doing that. All right, here's your results. Starting with the Friday games, Waccamaw knocked off Greensea Floyd 7-0. I actually saw the only touchdown in that game. It was a Jalen Simmons big-time run. St. James 34-21 over Andrews. Ainer 38-6 getting in the win column. Carolina Forest, they're now 0-2. They lose 41-21. Loris 26-6. Ian, start with you. Looking at just this first screen of scores, what stands out?
Carolina Forest might be the best 0-2 team in the area, maybe this part of the state. The opponents that they played are obviously going to be decent teams this year. Fort Dorchester, a big 16 opponent. You know, they've got the people to run depth against Carolina Forest. Carolina Forest still getting used to that offensive set under a new offensive coordinator.
Is it the fact that they're not stopping the run? I know that was a problem against Sagasti. They gave up a couple rushing touchdowns, at least according to the stats, against Fort Dorchester. They laid 41 on them. Is there a real cause for concern for defense for the Panthers?
Yeah, I mean, they're able to slow people down, but it's just not to the effect that they need to. And Will Brunson and Harold Atkinson, I think they've still got to figure out which one they're going to lean on their offensive side of the ball, because the stats are kind of strange looking if you look at them for rushing and passing. So I think if they can get all that figured out and get everybody on the same page, then I think they can get over in the win column.
And we're going to talk about Carolina Forest and their big game against St. James. That's our Grand Strand game of the week. But first, also, I want to talk Loris. Loris knocked off North Myrtle Beach, going back to that first graphic, 26-6. That was a big win to get to 2-0.
Yeah, it was kind of like, you know, what I said last week as far as Loris goes. They like those little slugfests, but last year they did the same thing against North Myrtle Beach. I believe it was 0-0 at halftime, and then they went on to win by four touchdowns again. You know, so I think, you know, Loris you're going to see that a lot from them this year. They're going to struggle early. They're going to play well late in games.
Yeah, this Loris defense, they just create touchdowns. They had 6 turnovers North Myrtle Beach had 6 turnovers in this game, so they weren't really ever able to hang. But Loris, man, they're impressive on the defensive side of the ball.
So much was made about Loris's athleticism, but, you know, you can't put behind them the defensive performances so far and the one they had in the Kickoff Classic. I know it's a scrimmage, but they held Myrtle Beach to just, 7 points?
Yep.
So, I mean, so far, so good. All right, part 2, we kind of teased you there with our other scores from week 1. Sagasti, they're 2-0, 35-28 winners over West Brunswick of North Carolina. Northwestern knocking off Conway 55-19. Myrtle Beach Irmo 33-27. I guess let's talk about the Myrtle Beach game. That was, I didn't get to see the comeback, but they came back from 27-12, a block punt at the end. And wow, I heard it was one of the greatest games on the Grand Strand in quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, Myrtle Beach is going to get a lot of credit for C.J. Cooper blocking that punt, but what a lot of people overlooked is that they had 3 crucial stops, 3 and outs there in the third and fourth quarter, and that allowed them to get back, to have a chance to get back in that game late. And, you know, I really think that defense is starting to come along, and they've finally played a game, so that makes sense.
Yeah, Myrtle Beach, I think this shows that they're just, Mickey Wilson's got these guys cool under pressure. I mean, Tyler Keene, C.J. Cooper, they're a dangerous tandem, but he was sprinting all over the field, and it was exciting to watch that game towards the end. I
think you're right. I think there might not be another team that could come back in the second half against a 4A opponent like that, down 27-12, down 2 scores. So hats off to the Seahawks. Northwestern, I did get a chance to see this game pretty much in full, and it was ugly. 55-19 ended up being the final. Instead of just commenting, Conway was overmatched. Just, you know, it was the tempo of this game just leaned on Northwestern, and Conway was too slow. Any thoughts on this game, Matt?
I mean, As far as if Conway gets a pass or not for this game, just because
That's what I was thinking.
and I know we discussed that earlier in the week, but I think they can get a pass for the loss. I don't think anybody thought that they could win, but I wasn't too surprised they didn't. They had opportunities to score. I don't think they get a pass for the margin, I think would be what I would say. They weren't tackling. They didn't look like they came to really play in that game.
I think this makes a statement really about the brand of football at the beach. It's not quite there, as is maybe even the PD or definitely the upstate.
Right, and I think that this area has been leaning on Myrtle Beach too long, and I think that's why you're starting to see some people really get excited about teams like Sockasty. Last year they did it about Carolina Forest. It's because that common football fan who maybe doesn't have a team to root for is looking for somebody else. And no offense to Myrtle Beach, they're a good program. They deserve everything that they've won. But at the same time, until you get somebody else popping out, it's going to be that same stigma of the Grand Strand teams cannot win on a consistent basis in those big games.
And I guess one of the more exciting pieces of the Grand Strand, I wanted to show this highlight because it's a really, really cool highlight. Mike Turner, can we roll the Mikel Moody video? Look at this play that he has. If you want to, that was pretty cool little thing that he did there. But a little draw play, breaks 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is a 4A team who just knocked off Gaffney, held them to a good margin of victory. You want to run through the highlight there with me, Ian?
Yeah, I mean, as I posted the other night, during the game, you see 3 very important things about Mikel Moody and the reason why he's being recruited as heavily as he is. First, he saw the hole, he saw which way to run, then he showed his strength by breaking through, and then he burst that little bit of speed at the end to keep that guy from that top left-hand corner from catching him.
Check out this catch by Sawyer Jordan. Got to throw that in.
Coach's son right there, making daddy happy, at least for a few moments.
All right. That's enough of the highlight reel. Let's go ahead and, let's take a look at our games of the week, at least for week number 2. In the PD, it's going to be an all-city showdown. You're going to have Wilson take on South Florence. We had Con and Gasquet talk about that in our PD report. But here in the Grand Strand, Carolina Forest taking on St. James. Start with you, Matt. I look at St. James now with a little bit of confidence. They 34-21 winners over Andrews. It's their home opener. Can they send the Panthers to 0-3?
I think Carolina Forest is still the favorite here just based on talent alone, but I don't think they're the favorite by much. St. James has been really impressive. This rushing attack is hard to slow down when you got Austin Adams and his cohort there rushing the ball. Josh Roper's not afraid to throw it. And like I was saying a little earlier about Carolina Forest, I don't know if Carolina Forest has figured out their weapons yet. Will Brunson's got 101 yards and an interception. Harold Atkinson's got 66 yards, 2 touchdowns. So obviously Harold Atkinson's getting it done, but if they can't figure out that balance, St. James could take advantage of that.
I think Carolina Forest is probably still the favorite in this one just based on, I believe, size. Yeah. Carolina Forest is a head taller than St. James.
Right, at just about every position. I mean, their DBs are bigger than most of St. James wide receivers, as an example. I think the important thing for Carolina Forest is they cannot get behind early because, as you said, they need that balance offensively. And, I think they're, in the first half this year, their 2 games, they've been outscored 49-26. Then they're forced into making Will Brunson throw the ball 3 out of every 4 plays. They can't do that if they want to win this game or a lot of other games on their schedule this year.
I'm looking for them to, go back to our week 0 Grand Strand Weekly web chat and, listen to us about, just run Harold Atkinson 40 times, Marcus Lattimore style.
Yeah, it seems to work. Every time
you
put the ball in his hand, he's got a touchdown. So,
hey, that's called armchair quarterbacks, and that's what we're playing right here on the weekly web chat. All right, let's take a look at some of the other games from week 2 that we're going to be getting a chance to look at. A couple of good ones on the slate, including one on Thursday. Let's just start with this one, Myrtle Beach at West Florence. The Seahawks have like 2 days to prepare for this, it seems like. Are these guys even going to be able to heal from, lick their wounds from Irmo, the bumps and bruises there, to go to a very tough place to play in West Florence, who won their region last year?
Right, it's a short turnaround for them. It's kind of the give and take of it, though. If they can get through this game with a win or even a loss, it doesn't really matter. Then they have 6 full days of prep to get ready for South Florence at home in the final week. So, they go on a short week, but at the same time, you're not going to go contact on the day after a game, which was a Sunday this week when they can't practice. So they didn't lose quite as much, as they think. But they get through this one, then they got plenty of time for the next one.
Now the Seahawks the favorite?
That's a tough one to say. Like Ian was saying, with a little bit of maybe a hangover from the game before that big comeback and then a short turnaround. Obviously, you're a little tired. And add to that West Florence uses this no-huddle, quick rushing attack that is difficult to slow down. They had 301 total yards against Camden, obviously another 3A school. So it's going to stand to see if the Seahawks can slow down West Florence at all.
West Florence doesn't have quite as much speed, I don't think, or quite as much talent as Irmo. They do have some speed. The quarterback, Marquand Goodman, just a sophomore, but has shown that he can pull the load. Jalen Dixon, he's the running back. It could be. I'm preparing for a good game on Thursday, so that should be fun. Some of the other games that I guess we're taking a look at, if we can, I believe we have Conway Rock Hill is a good one on the slate. Lake City at Socastee, Waccamaw Creek Bridge. I'm guessing, this Rock Hill, I haven't got to do too much research on Rock Hill, but just knowing them, they've got some athletes up there.
They do, but kind of like Conway, they've got a trouble with a little bit of fumbleitis. These two teams that are playing on Friday combined for 11 turnovers last week. Rock Hill got blown out. Conway got blown out. They're both, they are both ready for a little bit of payback, and it just so happens that they have to do it against each other.
Yeah, Conway is just, like you were saying, I don't really know as much about Rock Hill, but Conway has just got to kind of figure out how to tackle, come out to play, maybe a little bit of an attitude adjustment going into this week to kind of turn around some of the woes that led to the defeat on Saturday. I think they can go in there and get a win.
It's all about blocking and tackling. Any coach will tell you that. And Conway had a problem tackling Northwestern.
Yep.
Carolina Forest having a problem tackling everybody. And, it's just basically, if you can get the fundamentals down, then you're going to win some ball games. The other game I saw on the schedule, Lake City, Socastee. I see Socastee getting to 3-0 in this one. Lake City didn't look good against South Florence, but they did have 8 days now to prepare for this game.
8 days to prepare, but for an option offense that they probably won't see again the rest of the year. So you hope they've made use of that time, if you're a Lake City fan. But at the same time, I have no reason to believe Socastee won't be 3-0 for the first time since 2003.
Yeah, add to that, it's their home opener. They're coming in 2-0, which is always exciting for any team. Lake City's a talented squad. They went to the state championship last year, but I think Socastee should be able to pull it out against the 1A team.
We're heading to week 2 here. Let's just kind of, look at it all, take a kind of a step back. What performance so far, maybe over the last week or the last 2 weeks, has just really impressed you so far from a player that's been on the Grand Strand?
That's already been here?
Just any player or any team, any unit that's been playing. It could have just been from last week, could have been anything. What stood out so far?
I think from the first couple of weeks, the biggest thing that I noticed was that Conway has another receiver in Brian Edwards. It's just a freshman. This kid is cut out of the mold of, help me out here, their other receiver, Malcolm Green, I'm sorry.
Malcolm
Green, they're the exact same size, exact same speed.
Freshman?
As a freshman, he's a big kid, and I expect him to be a guy that we're going to hear about a lot, no matter who is throwing him the ball for the next 3 years.
That's good to hear. That's definitely good to hear. Any standout athlete or unit for you?
I'm going to go with the whole unit. I think for all their woes to begin the season, Carolina Forest can be one of the most exciting teams to watch, not only in the 4A but around the Grand Strand. Harold Atkinson's obviously got it done on the ground, but Will Brunson, if he can settle into that starting quarterback role, I know he's young, he can fix some of those turnover problems. They can be a really exciting offense to watch this season.
I think the Renfro kid has already made a name for himself. He had a monster game against Carolina Forest, and they put up 35 against West Brunswick. I think Loris, their defense, holding St. James to just 8 points, and then basically pitching a shutout and 6 turnovers. I guess it was 26-6 against North Myrtle Beach. So Loris's defense. How about Coach Jamie Snyder? What is he, 11-2 now as a head coach? I mean, why'd you ever go to college? You can make your money doing high school football coach. So, that's a great story to see.
Yeah, and it's good. His wife coaches and teaches at Conway High School. He didn't want to leave the area after everything went sour with Coastal Carolina. And guy found a really nice landing spot. I mean, he's at a place where people love him, the parents respect him, the kids, adore and listen to everything he says. And obviously they're listening because they're doing a lot of things right.
We talk a lot about the Grand Strand. There's a pretty big rivalry going down in Georgetown County with Andrews taking on Georgetown. Georgetown's had, 13, 14 days to stew over a defeat to Conway. I'd like to see, Bradley Adams' team bounce back right here. And I think Andrews just might be the perfect opponent for them to do that against. It's kind of a rivalry game.
Right, it's a rivalry game, but Andrews is replacing a lot from last year, and I think you saw that a little bit in that St. James victory over them. That they've got some pieces they need to fix, and meanwhile Georgetown's got some really nice parts of its own. They're going to win some games this year. They may not go 8-2 like they did last year, or 7-3 rather, but they're a nice team, and I expect them to be a playoff team come November.
Leave you with this, both of you. I want Matt, you to answer this first. I'm kind of skipping around here. This is what we do here at the Weekly Web Chat. Back to Sockasty. Can they compete with Myrtle Beach with what you've seen so far in region play?
Yes, I would say yes. Sockasty has had some difficult opponents. Obviously, Carolina Forest to start out the year. Last week they went to West Brunswick. They've proven they can hang in this league. Myrtle Beach is quick. Myrtle Beach scores often. But I think myself as a former Brave would like to say yes that they can. But what I've seen from Myrtle Beach as well, I think they can hang in there. I think Tim Renfro might have the guys on the right track this season. I think you might be onto something. Let's ask Mr. Expert over here. What do you think?
Wow, that's a dubious honor. They're playing. I just had to look it up. They're playing October 5th, and when you play that triple option offense, it's all about assignment on the defensive line, on the linebackers. If they were to play this game this week, maybe Sockasty beats them, puts a 35-40 point, outing on them. October 5th, by the time that Myrtle Beach defensive line is used to playing with each other and getting used to playing with those linebackers, who knows? It's probably going to be a lot closer game. I still expect Myrtle Beach to win it at this point.
All right, that's the Grand Strand Weekly Web Chat. Thanks so much to Ian of the Sun News and Matt Parris. I guess you're just Ian. You're like Pedro.
I'm like Cher.
You're like Roger, the Rocket Clemens. If we just said Roger, did you know I'm talking about Roger Clemens?
No.
I guess that's a Texas thing. I don't know. And Matt Parris.
It's a Rocket, man, yeah.
You're Matt Parris. You got a first and last name. I'm
you
Jeff
go.
Zell. Read it, listen to it, and watch it all on Friday night and Saturday morning. Thanks for tuning in to the Grand Strand Weekly Webcast. We'll catch you next week.